Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
1st and 12 every single Sunday, 10 a.m. to noon here on KSL News Radio, the KSL Sports Zone, the KSL Sports app, and on podcast, wherever you get your podcasting platforms. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry. I'm here in Morgantown, West Virginia, the site of BYU's 37-7 setback against the Mountaineers. And let's break down this game, and it's sponsored by Macy's Grocery Store. Happy shopping. Alex, this was a game where BYU loses by 30, but I feel like it could have been worse. I mean, West Virginia, Garrett Green left some points on the field with some of his poor passing. This was just, in all three phases, a disaster for BYU.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen it all year, Mitch, right? I don't know why we should be that surprised by some of the disparities on the offensive side of things. The thing that was something that we didn't necessarily expect was the rushing total that the Mountaineers put up. I mean, 336 yards on the ground. After showing out last week and just showing kind of the toughness that they had against the University of Texas down in Austin, I thought maybe, they could show up and the only thing that they needed to do was say, hey, we'll take over on the defense. We'll keep this thing under 17 points from West Virginia, and then let's see if we can give Jake Retzlaff a chance. And then, but no shot at all. Like you were saying, when it was 27-0 at the half, I thought this actually was probably the worst feeling BYU fans have experienced all season long. Am I wrong on that? But because even the TCU loss, you went, yeah, but it is TCU. Maybe it was supposed to be like that. But West Virginia, I was not expecting that, and it was by far, jumping off the paper, there was one team who wanted to play that game hard, and it was not BYU.
Yeah, BYU, I was just not – I don't know if I should say stunned because – they've kind of given us these hints leading up to this game of lack of the ability to stop the run, can't get off the field. But I was just stunned how West Virginia said, BYU, we're not threatened by you. We're going to win the coin toss. We're going to receive, and we're going to run it down your throat on that first drive. And they did. And Neil Brown, credit to him, he instilled confidence into that West Virginia team, and they showed it on Saturday night. West Virginia now 6-3. They still have a chance to go to the Big 12 championship game after being the preseason number 14 pick. Garrett Green said this week that he's got the number 14 on his lock screen all the time on his iPhone as motivation. And, man, it was a motivated group. And BYU, I don't know what they hang their hat on going forward.
Yeah.
One thing that I did like, though, from the game, Alex, was Jake Retzlaff. I feel like he should be your starting quarterback for BYU going forward. I know that Kalani Sitake said that Keaton Slovis is day-to-day, and you'll hear more from Kalani here coming up. But I feel like Retzlaff, his performance I thought was pretty decent in a otherwise poor performance from BYU.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Mitch. Like, the week in total, it was an emotionally charged, very weird week. The news comes out about Retzlaff. They probably didn't want it to come out as early as it did. But hounds like you are always calling up, what's the deal? Who's going to start this week? No, but I mean, honestly, it felt like everything besides football was – I mean, not football, but I mean besides West Virginia was in the discussion, right? I mean, it just felt like one of those weird weeks. And if you thought that BYU was going to suddenly turn everything around on offense, it just felt like this was not the week to do it because everything got rolled out and they put it out there that he's going to be the guy, that there's a shoulder injury or there's an elbow or whatever, an arm injury to Keaton Slovis. But then everybody is behind the scenes going, yeah, but is it an injury? I mean, is this something really that they're trying to just have him take over for? And I remember now I look back and I question everything because we talked with Connor Pay on Tuesday like we always do during the week. And we asked him, what about changing quarterbacks? Because Kalani says, no way, let's get this guy some protection or whatever. And it was weird because he was like, yeah, I don't think you replace him. I mean, he's the leader and he's the guy. And if the other 10 of us were playing awesome and he was the problem, then yeah. And then they replaced him. And I don't know if he knew it at that point or if he was just saying, yeah, don't replace him if he's bad, but yeah, replace somebody if they have an injury. Everything around this whole thing, Mitch, felt like going into West Virginia, there were so many distractions, so many problems that were outside of the actual game itself. And West Virginia's just like, who cares, man? Country roads, we're going to blow you guys up. And they did.
BYU is a soft football team, and that's discouraging because I honestly thought coming into this season, Alex, that BYU might have their losses. I predicted 5 losses coming into the year for BYU, but I thought they were just going to be tough, and teams were going to feel BYU's strength in the trenches for a full 60 minutes, and it wasn't going to be, BYU's a complete pushover. I mean, I'm hearing in the press box at West Virginia media thinking, is BYU the new Kansas of old? Oh. And that's kind of the feeling. And you know what? How BYU played, I think it's a fair criticism because BYU was bad. You look around the Big 12 this weekend, all the games were within a touchdown or less, except BYU, West Virginia. But again, I think that BYU has got something with Retzlaff. I don't know if he's a QB1 next year. I still believe you got to get into that portal again and add another quarterback. But I liked what he showed, and I feel like he's got the ability to go out and run in some of those design runs. And he seemed also like someone that just makes quick decisions. He's just going to fire it off. And I like that about him. I feel like Keenan Slovis a little bit slower in his decision-making at times, whereas Retzlaff was pretty quick. But BYU's got to pick themselves up off the mat quick because it doesn't get any easier heading down the stretch at all.
No, and you know what? I mean, it's been, I guess, over the last 12 hours on social media, how weird has it been to watch people pointing out clips of, look how terribly blocked this was. Look how this guy's not making an effort on this play to block somebody. The O-line may have had their worst game of the entire season after everybody saying, hey, I think they could turn a corner now. And it was one of the worst performances we've seen by that starting front.
Alex, I feel like Daryl Funk, if he has a job by Monday, I don't think that's appropriate. I feel like Daryl Funk has to go. And, Kalani Sitake is not one to make in-season firings, but that group has regressed so much since Jeff Grimes left for Baylor. It is just a shell of itself. And I don't subscribe to the thought that there's not talent at the offensive line. If it was the days of old when Bronco was the head coach and they're dealing with, 260-pound guys going up against Starlo Talele, yeah, I can understand the critiques. But this group's got talent. Connor Pay, as you mentioned, Kingsley Suamataia, Braden Keim. These are talented football players, and they look like they're just lost. There's no identity. There's no toughness. And there's got to be some real changes. And I think after this season, that seat's got to be cooking for Daryl Funk. And I know that's tough to say.
Well, it's not a Kalani move either, right? And he doesn't like to make in-season moves anyway. But if you do, then maybe it is a position coach.
It's just a reality.
Right, yeah. I mean, gosh. This is rough stuff right now. This is what BYU fans are saying, across the board. But, man, it was a rough go. That was as bad of a performance we've seen.
What was also rough was the West Virginia student section on Keaton Slovis. Even though he didn't play in the game, man, they were giving it to him in the pregame. Oh, my goodness. So Keaton Slovis, obviously, he's on the sideline. It was funny. He was wearing a yellow BYU hat, kind of signal.
Right.
So it looked like he was wearing pit colors with royal blue and yellow. So that already ignited him even more. But the student section for West Virginia, I have never heard so many curse words. And owning it. Like, I'm taking some photos of these people that are smiling and they're dropping all these swear words, and it's just going in on these BYU players. It was pretty rough. So it was the clash of the cultures that we were expecting to see, and
what did somebody say?
It wasn't the friendly confines of the Rock, that's for sure.
Somebody goes, would it be bad if we made the inbreds versus the Mormons? I said, yeah, we'd probably hold back on. That's not a T-shirt you want to print necessarily. All right, we'll take another break here. We'll come back. Our show is always brought to you by Macy's. Happy shopping, the freshest fruits and vegetables. You got to go to Macy's. You got to check it out. They sponsor, of course, First and 12 every week. We'll come back. Let's listen to what Kalani Sitake had to say about this loss at West Virginia last night in Morgantown. Stay with us. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone, 102.7 FM, KSL News Radio. It is First and 12. Stay with us.